In a modest suburban home in Cincinnati, Ohio, an 8-year-old boy named Ryan Calloway stood before his parents' record player in the spring of 2019, carefully placing the needle on a vinyl album he'd discovered in the basement. The opening notes of Fly Me to the Moon filled the room. His mother, Elizabeth, expected him to lose interest quickly. Instead, Ryan closed his eyes and began to sing. His voice carried something beyond his years. Not just a melody, but a phrasing, a swagger, an emotional depth that seemed impossible for a child who'd never heard these songs before. When the track ended, Ryan opened his eyes and said quietly, almost matter-of-factly, "I used to sing this all the time, when I was Frank Sinatra." Elizabeth felt the room tilt slightly. Ryan had shown no particular interest in music from that era. They didn't listen to Sinatra in their home. Ryan's world revolved around video games, soccer practice, and animated movies. Yet here he stood, having just delivered a performance that left his mother speechless, claiming to remember a life as one of the 20th century's most iconic entertainers. Elizabeth called her husband, David, into the room. "Ryan, honey, what did you just say?" David asked, his voice careful, measured. Ryan looked at his father with an expression that seemed weighted with something beyond childhood confusion. "I remember being Frank Sinatra. I remember the studios, the lights, the microphone that was always too close to my face. I remember people in dark suits, smoking cigarettes, and arguing about arrangements." His parents exchanged glances that communicated both concern and a dawning awareness that something extraordinary was unfolding. Over the following weeks, Ryan's statements became more specific and more frequent. He would make offhand comments about places he'd never visited. He described the interior of recording studios from the 1950s with architectural precision. He mentioned the weight of a particular microphone model, the feel of a specific fabric used in suits at that time, the taste of Jack Daniels, though he'd obviously never consumed alcohol. Elizabeth, a high school history teacher with a natural inclination toward documentation, began keeping detailed records. She wrote down everything Ryan said without prompting or leading questions, noting the date, time, and context of each statement. Dr. Michael Torres from the University of Virginia's Division of Perceptual Studies received Elizabeth's initial email with cautious interest. He'd spent 15 years investigating cases of children who claimed memories of previous lives. Most cases involved ordinary individuals, but occasionally someone claimed to remember being famous. These cases presented unique challenges and opportunities. Famous lives were well documented, which meant claims could be verified or disproven with unusual precision. Dr. Torres agreed to meet the Calloway family, emphasizing that his approach would be methodical and evidence-focused. The first formal interview took place in the Calloway living room on a Saturday morning in June. Dr. Torres brought a research associate, Amanda Chun, who specialized in child psychology and interview techniques. They set up recording equipment while Ryan played with building blocks nearby, seemingly unconcerned about the attention. Dr. Torres began with baseline questions to assess Ryan's general knowledge and suggestibility. Then he shifted to open-ended questions about the memories Ryan claimed to have. "Ryan, can you tell me about what you remember from this other life you've mentioned?" Dr. Torres asked, his tone conversational and non-leading. Ryan looked up from his blocks, considering the question with unexpected seriousness. "I remember stages. Lots of stages. The lights were always hot. I remember my throat would get tired, but I had to keep singing because people were watching. I remember a piano player. He had gray hair and glasses. We'd rehearse for hours." Dr. Torres made notes, then asked, "Do you remember any specific places?" Ryan nodded. "New York. I remember tall buildings and a theater with red seats. I remember flying to other cities. The airplanes were different then. Smaller. Louder." Amanda Chun interjected with questions designed to test the consistency and spontaneity of Ryan's recall. She showed him photographs of various microphones from different eras, mixing models from the 1950s with modern equipment. Ryan pointed to a ribbon microphone used in Sinatra's recordings without hesitation. "This one, it was heavy. You had to stand close." She showed him photographs of various men in suits, including several pictures of Sinatra mixed with similar-looking performers from that era. Ryan identified Sinatra in 3 different photographs at different ages, including one lesser-known image from the early 1940s. Over the course of 3 months, Dr. Torres conducted 7 formal interviews. Between sessions, Elizabeth continued documenting Ryan's unprompted statements. The detail that emerged was remarkable in its specificity. Ryan described the layout of Capitol Records Studio A with accuracy that matched architectural drawings not available to the public. He mentioned recording sessions for specific albums, describing technical problems that occurred, a microphone failure during one take, an argument about tempo on another song. When Dr. Torres later verified these details through archived studio logs and engineer interviews, many of Ryan's statements aligned with documented events. One afternoon in August, Ryan was helping his mother prepare dinner when he suddenly stopped cutting vegetables and stared out the kitchen window. "Mom, I remember someone named Ava. She had dark hair and green eyes. We fought a lot, but I loved her. I remember a house we had together. It had a pool shaped like a kidney bean." Elizabeth set down her own knife and pulled out the notebook she now kept constantly nearby. "Can you describe the house?" she asked. Ryan closed his eyes. It was white, single story. There were palm trees. The living room had a piano. I remember playing it sometimes, even though I wasn't very good at piano. I was better at singing. Dr. Torres found photographs of Frank Sinatra's home in Palm Springs from the late 1940s and early 1950s. The kidney bean-shaped pool was visible in aerial shots. The white, single-story architecture matched Ryan's description. Records confirmed that Ava Gardner, to whom Sinatra was married during that period, had dark hair. Whether her eyes were green or blue remained a point of debate in biographical accounts, but Ryan's general description aligned with documented facts. What made this particularly striking was that these details about Sinatra's personal life weren't in children's books or mainstream media Ryan might have encountered. The Palm Springs house appeared in specialized biographies and historical documentation, not in sources an 8-year-old would typically access. The research team faced a fundamental question that appears in all such investigations. How could these memories be verified in a way that ruled out normal explanations? Dr. Torres developed a systematic approach. First, he documented Ryan's statements before attempting verification. Second, he assessed whether the information could have been obtained through conventional means, television, books, conversations overheard from adults. Third, he looked for details specific enough to be verified, but obscure enough that they wouldn't appear in mainstream sources. One compelling example emerged during an interview in September. Dr. Torres asked Ryan about specific songs, playing brief instrumental clips and asking if Ryan recognized them. For most songs, Ryan responded normally. He either recognized them from his current life or didn't know them. But when an instrumental version of In the Wee Small Hours played, Ryan's face changed. He closed his eyes and began describing the recording session. "We did that one late at night. I was sad. I remember the conductor. He wore a brown suit. We did maybe 12 takes because I couldn't get the feeling right. I was thinking about someone who wasn't there anymore." Dr. Torres contacted Gary Mitchell, a music historian who'd written extensively about Sinatra's recording sessions. Mitchell confirmed through studio logs that In the Wee Small Hours had been recorded late at night, that conductor Nelson Riddle often wore brown suits, and that the session had indeed required numerous takes. More significantly, Sinatra himself had later described being in emotional turmoil during those recordings, thinking about his failing marriage to Ava Gardner. These details existed in specialized music history archives, not in sources available to most children. David Calloway, Ryan's father, struggled with the implications of his son's experiences. A software engineer with a pragmatic worldview, David initially sought conventional explanations. He monitored Ryan's media consumption carefully, noting that Ryan watched age-appropriate television shows and movies with no connection to 1950s music or culture. He checked Ryan's internet browsing history, mostly gaming videos and sports highlights. He interviewed Ryan's teachers, who confirmed that nothing in the school curriculum covered Sinatra or that era of American music in detail. Every conventional explanation seemed inadequate to account for the specificity and consistency of Ryan's knowledge. Yet the most compelling moments came not from formal interviews, but from spontaneous statements that emerged during ordinary family life. One evening, while driving to soccer practice, Ryan commented on the radio, playing a contemporary pop song. "Music now is so different. It's all electronic. I remember when every sound came from an instrument someone was actually playing right there in the room. You could feel it differently." Elizabeth glanced at her son in the rearview mirror. His expression carried a wistfulness that seemed disconnected from his 8 years of life experience. Another day, Ryan was at a friend's birthday party when the DJ played a swing music medley for a dance game. While other children laughed and moved awkwardly to the unfamiliar rhythms, Ryan stood frozen, tears streaming down his face. When Elizabeth picked him up, he couldn't explain why he'd been crying. "It just made me remember something. Something about being somewhere else, with different people. About being older. About things being over." The complexity of his emotional response suggested layers of experience beyond his chronological age. Dr. Torres brought in Dr. Lisa Feldman, a neuroscientist specializing in memory formation, to assess possible neurological explanations. Dr. Feldman conducted cognitive testing and brain imaging studies. Ryan's brain structure appeared entirely normal. His memory function in his current life, remembering schoolwork, family events, friends' names, was age-appropriate. Yet when Ryan described memories he attributed to a previous life, his neural activation patterns showed activity in regions associated with autobiographical memory retrieval, not imagination or confabulation. The distinction was significant. When people fabricate stories or imagine scenarios, different brain regions activate than when they recall genuine memories. Ryan's brain activity during past life recollection resembled genuine memory retrieval. Dr. Feldman acknowledged the profound mystery this presented. From a neuroscience perspective, we can observe that Ryan's brain is processing these recollections as memories, not as imaginative constructions. What we cannot explain is the source of these memories. Standard neuroscience doesn't provide a framework for memories that precede brain development. Yet the data suggests something more complex than simple fantasy or confabulation. The case attracted attention from other researchers investigating consciousness and survival of personality beyond death. Dr. James Harrison, a psychiatrist who'd studied near-death experiences for 30 years, traveled from London to meet Ryan. Dr. Harrison had documented cases of individuals who reported detailed memories during cardiac arrest, periods when their brains showed no measurable activity. He saw potential parallels with Ryan's case. Both phenomena suggested that consciousness and memory might not be entirely dependent on physical brain function in ways currently understood by mainstream neuroscience. During his visit, Dr. Harrison employed techniques from his near-death experience research, asking Ryan about the transition between lives. Ryan struggled to articulate these memories. "I remember darkness, then light. Then I was small again, but I still remembered being big. I remembered singing and stages and people. I remember feeling confused because my hands were tiny and I couldn't talk very well yet." The description aligned with patterns Dr. Harrison had documented in other cases of children claiming past life memories, a sense of continuity of consciousness despite radical changes in physical circumstances. Not all the research community responded with openness. Dr. Feldman received criticism from colleagues for participating in the study. Several peer reviewers rejected papers Dr. Torres submitted, noting that the topic fell outside mainstream scientific paradigms. The criticism reflected broader tensions within academia about investigating phenomena that challenged materialist frameworks of consciousness. Yet the evidence continued accumulating in ways difficult to dismiss. The specificity of Ryan's knowledge, the emotional authenticity of his responses, the neural patterns during memory recall, and the verification of obscure details all pointed towards something requiring serious consideration. Elizabeth and David faced their own challenges as Ryan's case gained attention. They received media requests, which they declined, wanting to protect Ryan's privacy and normal childhood development. They heard from skeptics who suggested they were exploiting their son or engaging in elaborate deception. They also heard from other families whose children claimed past life memories, seeking guidance and support. The Callaways tried to maintain perspective, allowing researchers access while ensuring Ryan's daily life remained as normal as possible. By Ryan's 9th birthday in March 2020, subtle changes had begun. The spontaneous comments about Sinatra's life became less frequent. The emotional intensity when hearing certain songs diminished. Dr. Torres noted this pattern appeared in many documented cases. Past life memories typically faded as children developed stronger identities in their current lives. Ryan began focusing more on his present existence, his friends, his schoolwork, his own developing interests in science and astronomy. Yet something remained. When asked directly about his Sinatra memories, Ryan could still recall them, but they felt more distant, more dreamlike. During a final formal interview in June 2020, Dr. Torres asked Ryan what he made of his experiences. Ryan thought carefully before responding. "I don't know if I was really Frank Sinatra, or if I somehow remember his memories, or if something else happened that I don't understand. But I know the memories feel real to me. They feel like things I actually experienced, not like things I read about or imagined. I guess I'll never know for sure what it all means." The thoughtfulness of his response, his comfort with uncertainty, suggested a maturity beyond his years. Dr. Torres completed his formal report in September 2020, concluding that Ryan's case represented one of the most thoroughly documented instances of a child claiming detailed memories of a famous individual's life. The case included elements that couldn't be easily explained through conventional means: knowledge of obscure historical details, consistent and spontaneous recall over extended periods, emotional responses suggesting genuine memory rather than imagination, and neural patterns consistent with autobiographical memory retrieval. Dr. Torres stopped short of claiming definitive proof of reincarnation, noting that multiple theoretical frameworks might account for the phenomena. Yet he emphasized that dismissing the case without serious consideration would represent a failure of scientific curiosity. The question of what Ryan's experiences ultimately meant remained open. Perhaps consciousness persists beyond death and occasionally retains memories across lives. Perhaps some unknown mechanism allows access to information across time and space. Perhaps Ryan's brain, through some unexplained process, had accessed genuine memories belonging to another person. Or perhaps some entirely different explanation, beyond current scientific understanding, accounted for his knowledge and experiences. What couldn't be easily dismissed was that something extraordinary had occurred, something that challenged comfortable assumptions about consciousness, memory, and the nature of identity itself. Ryan continued growing, developing into a thoughtful young person with interests spanning science, music, and philosophy. The memories that had dominated his 8th and 9th years receded, but didn't disappear entirely. Occasionally, hearing certain songs or seeing certain images, he would feel a flicker of recognition, a momentary sense of having lived those moments before. Elizabeth kept her notebooks, detailed documentation of a period when her son seemed to carry 2 lifetimes of experience simultaneously. David maintained his natural skepticism while acknowledging he'd witnessed something he couldn't explain through conventional frameworks. The case files remained in the archives at the Division of Perceptual Studies, one among hundreds of documented instances of children reporting past life memories. Some cases involved ordinary individuals, others famous personalities. Each case raised profound questions about consciousness, survival, and the nature of human existence. Researchers continued investigating, collecting data, seeking patterns that might illuminate these mysterious experiences. The work proceeded slowly, carefully, building a foundation of evidence that demanded serious consideration even as it challenged prevailing scientific paradigms. For those willing to examine the evidence without predetermined conclusions, cases like Ryan's offered something valuable. Not definitive answers, but compelling reasons to question assumptions about the relationship between consciousness and physical existence. They suggested that reality might be more complex, more mysterious, more interesting than materialist frameworks allowed. They invited consideration of possibilities beyond current scientific understanding while maintaining rigorous standards of evidence and documentation. The story of an 8-year-old boy singing jazz standards with unexpected sophistication, then claiming memories of being Frank Sinatra, represented more than an isolated curiosity. It joined a larger body of evidence suggesting that consciousness, memory, and identity might not be entirely dependent on physical brain function in ways currently understood. Whether future research would validate this possibility or reveal alternative explanations remained uncertain. What seemed clear was that serious investigation of these phenomena, conducted with methodological rigor and intellectual honesty, served the fundamental purpose of science: exploring the unknown with open minds and careful attention to evidence, wherever that exploration might lead. If you found this investigation compelling, subscribe to our channel for more explorations of consciousness, past life memories, and the profound mysteries of human existence. Each week we examine carefully documented cases that challenge our understanding of reality and invite us to consider possibilities beyond conventional frameworks. Join our community of open-minded seekers as we investigate the evidence and explore the extraordinary experiences that suggest consciousness may transcend our current scientific understanding. Subscribe now and never miss an investigation that could transform how you understand the nature of existence itself.